Hello, this is What's All About with another watch review, and in this review we're looking at a Swiss-made brand, completely Swiss brand, Epos. One that I'm not too familiar with, to be honest, so I'm more than happy to get to know the brand a little bit better and get to know one of their watches. This one is the Originale 3408. And the key feature to this is the incredible thinness of it. It's only 5.9 millimeters thick, and of course it is mechanical as well, so that is quite something. But that's not all. It is just a beautifully finished watch, but we'll go into it in a little bit more detail obviously as we go through the review. Now the price, it is on the expensive side for What's All About. The RRP is €1,160. Now currently that's about £950-ish. So, certainly it's not a cheap watch. It's not necessarily an affordable watch, but it is a luxury watch. So we'll go through the elements in detail to see why this is the case. Obviously that is the RRP, so you may be able to find it for cheaper than that in shops, in stores, or online. So let's talk about the specs. 40mm in diameter. As I mentioned before, a simply crazy height of 5.9mm, and then a lug to lug length of 45.5mm. So in terms of size, 40mm diameter, perfect. I really like that size for a smart dress watch. I think it's not too small that it looks silly, but it's not too big that it's like a dinner plate. It's big enough to fit my 7.25-inch wrist just fine. Plenty of wrist presence, etc. So I think that's a good size. The thinness is just it's quite something. When you're wearing it, because of this, it's quite lightweight as well. It's only 43 grams. So it is extremely comfortable on the wrist. You can fit it under shirt cuffs very, very easily, as you would imagine. The fact that it's 43 grams as well, sometimes a watch that light can feel cheap or a bit flimsy. But with this watch, it's hard to explain, but it's manufactured in such a way that it doesn't feel flimsy at all. It still feels very high quality, very luxurious, and I think the finishing of the case has something to do with that. So we have 20mm lugs, so perfectly fine size strap for the case, 18mm at the buckle, a water resistance of 30 meters or 3 atmospheres, so you could probably get away with a dunk or a splash, but I personally wouldn't take it swimming, wouldn't recommend it. The movement is a Peso, P-E-S-E-U-X 7001. Now I believe that ETA have since bought that out, so it could be classed as an ETA 7001. Specs are that it's hand wind only, obviously, because it's so thin, so there's no automatic gubbins in there. Runs at 21.6 thousand beats per hour, so 6 ticks per second. Obviously has a small seconds hand rather than a central second hand, and that second hand is non-hacking either. So if I pull the crown out to change the time, we see the second hand continuing to rotate. So that's all the specs. Epos originally started in the mid-1920s, but since then I think the current owners of them haven't got any relation to the original family who set it up. I think it's more of a sort of change hands kind of jobby, but there's plenty of details on their website about their history. They're quite open with it, which is a good thing, because a lot of these like Swiss companies, some of them claim to have a lot of history when they don't really deserve. They've just bought the name. So Epos are quite open with what has happened in their history, so have a look at their website. Okay, so talking about the dial then, very, very simple, very plain. As you can see, it's a blue sunburst, sunray kind of feel to it, and we have two separate sun rays. So when when the light hits it, we get like two effects working in tandem. So we have the main dial, and then the small second sub dial as well works in its own sort of spin as well. So that's set within the main dial on a lower level. So for a watch so thin, they've really developed some depth to the dial as well, which is quite impressive, really. The hour markers also introduce some depth to the dial, because they're not a flat baton, they're actually slightly curved, and we'll be able to see that when we get the macro lens out in closer detail, but I might be able to just show you quickly now. So if you get a cross section, you see that it's not completely flat, it's got a gentle curve to it, which is a really nice little touch. Obviously they're all polished to match the plain pitched straight hands with gentle points on the end. I mean, I don't like to use the word minimalist a lot, but this is true to that word. Very simple, very just classy in design. So I think the dial itself, they've done a really good job with the design. Can't really complain about anything at all. The printing is good as well. We have the logo in the top half, and then Swiss made at the foot of the dial, and then finally 5-second intervals on the second sub dial as well. Okay, so moving on to the case, it's really quite sleek. If we have a look at it like that, we can see, although the diameter is 40mm, it actually tends to wear a little bit smaller because of these sharp angles above and below the widest part. So the case back, the section that sits on your wrist is a lot smaller. And I just really love the shape of the lugs. I think they're really, really classy, very Bauhaus actually, to be honest. Just this section here is very cool, where it flows through from the center of the case. So that's a very nice fluid design. The crown as well is very nice. Usually you wouldn't see this kind of onion style crown, but I think it suits it really well. It's quite important, the crown in a watch like this, because obviously it's hand wind, so you'll be using it at least every other day to wind it up. If you leave it as well and it runs flat, then you'll have to set it regularly as well. So it's a perfect size, gives you great grip for winding. If I show you the movement winding, so it gives excellent grip for that. And then you've got a nice little undercarriage as well for you to just get your nails in to be able to set the watch as well. There we go. So the finishing and machining of the crown is very nice to match the case. Moving on to the case back, obviously we have the movement in the center here, so we have a nice large exhibition window the size of the movement. It's secured in with 4 screws as well, rather than being a screw and case back. I believe, I'm not entirely sure if this is sapphire case back or not. Obviously the top is most definitely sapphire. That says so in the specs, so that's good. But it does give you very nice, clear view of the beautiful movement with some Geneva stripes on it as well. So might as well move on to the movement now. Incredible thinness and just very nice finish as well. If we see, try and get, difficult to get it in focus. I can't get any closer, unfortunately, but we'll be able to have a look at it in closer detail with the macro lens on. But yeah, it's just a really nice view. There's one thing I'm a little bit confused about, in that the movement, this logo does seem to be upside down. So obviously the logo is upright, but the watch is not. So the watch is upright now, turn it over, and the logo is upside down. So that's a bit of a bummer. That's probably the only thing I wonder. about with the watch. But apart from that, it is very nicely done. So moving on to the strap, we have a black strap on this one, quite thin to have a good close relationship with the wrist. Very soft, very supple as well. You can tell it's very high quality leather, so it's good on the wrist. So this certainly helps out the extreme comfort. So we have a crocodile grain pattern printed on it, and then we have a polished, if I just give that a quick wipe, a polished buckle there with the Epos logo engraved on it, which is nice. Okay, so let me just get my macro lens on then, and we'll have a look at it in closer detail. Just give the dial a quick wipe. So here we have the printing of the logo. Moving down, we have the seconds hands with that concentric circular pattern, which you can barely see with the naked eye. So that's really interesting, close attention to detail from them. And then Swiss made, obviously perfectly printed at the bottom of the dial there. So the hands are all pretty much the same, thin batons with a small tip. Polished as well, so they reflect the light nicely. And then moving on to the hour markers, just good reflections. So we can see there ever so slight arc to the hour markers, which is a really nice little touch that I really like. There we go, that's got it nicely. So that's another nice piece of attention to detail to introduce some texture and depth to the dial. Okay, so let's just move on to the case. If I give it a quick wipe to get rid of my fingerprints. So looking, it's all highly polished, and just the finishing is quite outstanding. Really, you can tell the difference between a watch like this and a watch costing a few £100s. It's quite exquisite, really, and you are paying for a luxury watch at the end of the day. So here's the lovely shaped lugs. And this side we have the crown. So a cool little onion shaped crown. There's the grip. Moving on to the underside, we have the case back. So these details are nice and deeply engraved. Then move on to the movement. The Peso/ETA 7001. So we have Epos engraved there. So interestingly, this is the same movement that's used by loads of other manufacturers like Stowa, Young'uns, Baume Mercier, Tissot, Blancpain. So it's a well-used movement. And in fact, in there, can you see the tiny ETA logo? So that confirms that this is one of the ETA batches, and it says ETA 7001. So very smooth, buttery movement. There it is, winding it up. one click at a time. So yeah, very nice Geneva stripes on this as well, so it's a very nice finish. Moving on to the strap then, have the black crocodile grain printed on top. On the underside we have Epos and Swiss printed, and then we have the polished buckle as well. There we go, with Epos engraved on the end. Okay, so this is most definitely, you know, on the higher price range that I would tend to review. But saying that, I'm more than happy to appreciate the watch that it is. Yes, it's almost £1,000. Yes, that is a lot of money. But what you're getting is just a beautifully finished watch. The design is great. The movement is beautiful. The thinness is stunning, and the general fit and finish is quite outstanding. Really, the case is just fantastic. I love it. The design of the case, the finishing and manufacture of the case is amazing. So, £1,000 is a lot of money, but it is a luxury watch, no doubt about it. Okay, so this was the Epos Originale 3408, and that's what it's all about.